Hello and welcome back to Bunny Hoof Studio. So I challenged myself to draw every single day of October as part of the annual Inktober art challenge. I decided not to follow any of the official prompts and instead let myself draw whatever came to mind every day. Join me for a cozy session in the studio and see if I manage to complete this challenge with 5 full inked page spreads. Happy October and Inktober, although I'm assuming by the time this video is out it's going to be probably November. I haven't done Inktober for a really long time, for quite a few years. The last time I tried it I did something quite intense, and I think this time I want to do something that kind of helps me loosen up a little bit with my work and be a bit more imaginative. So I think what I'm going to do is use my little fountain pen, and I think I'm gonna fill a page each week with different sketches and create a really nice page spread over the month and kind of do one every day, and I think that will be fun. I think it will make a nice video. It will help me loosen up a bit, which is something I like my drawing style. I don't have an issue with my drawing style, but I think I want to try and let go a bit more and be a bit more imaginative, and I think creating looser sketches can help with this, and I want to play around more with some ideas, so I think this is a good exercise to kind of try and do that. So I actually have some art prints here that you can get in my shop, and I did these for Inktober a few years ago, and this is one of my favourites actually. This is a ocean scene, and each day I added a different animal, and actually this is really significant because this is when I rediscovered I should say, dip pen and ink, because I got down to one of these and my fine liner had run out of ink, so I switched to dip pen. I dug out my dip pen. My partner had some Indian ink, which you need to use dip pen, and I started stippling, and I loved it so much, and I noticed the quality of the line was so much better, and I was like hooked from then, and that's how the current portfolio I have really became what it is. I became really into dip pen. So this is one of them. This is another one. I love this one actually. It's got a toad at the bottom, a fire salamander, a little bug. I can't remember the name of. Fireflies. I don't have the third one, but this is another one with a hog, lots of other things. The other one has a really pretty goat. I don't think I have that here. So that was a very intense Inktober I did. This one is going to look very different. This one I want to play around with my imagination a bit more, with ideas, just have fun and like keep it fairly low pressure, but still it's like a challenge. I'm challenging myself to do a little ink drawing every day. So that's my plan, and yeah, I hope you enjoy. For quicker drawings in this little sketchbook, I like to use my Platinum Desk fountain pen, as I find it really helps me to loosen up. I actually usually create all my finished work with a dip pen and ink, which has quite a different feel to it. This particular paper does tend to let the ink bleed quite easily, so you'll probably notice I frequently use the pen with the nib actually facing the wrong way, as this creates an even finer line. I sketch out all of the drawings first before inking. I'm not actually particularly good at freehand drawing, and I much prefer to have at least a loose guide of where I want my lines to go. For my first little sketch, I decide to start with something I always enjoy drawing, an animal with lots of fluff. This particular rabbit has some little translucent wings and is surrounded by a vine. For this first week, I actually found I had an abundance of ideas, and so each day I didn't find I needed to think too hard to decide what I wanted to draw. I often looked through my art books or reference that I've gathered over the years to spark a new idea. Often just one element of an image would give me an idea for something that I wanted to create. I tried not to overthink it and pretty much go with the first thing that came into my head. I wanted the emphasis to be about having fun and getting out ideas that wouldn't usually get a chance to ever see my pen. Most of my finished drawings are highly detailed and take a long time to plan and finish, and I often think it's a shame I don't get to see some more immediate ideas inked. In the past, I often found the pressure of drawing every day not really very helpful, and even found challenges like Inktober quite overwhelming. I think a lot of these feelings came from approaching the challenge in the wrong way for me. I think I thought too much about what I should be drawing and how, rather than how the challenge could help me develop in a certain area. I must admit, the thought of filming and documenting the process did also help motivate me quite a bit. I think that's what's been quite interesting about making this channel. I don't exactly create work for it, but there is an extra enjoyment or motive in knowing I'm going to make it into its own thing and share it with the world in a different way. I really loved this little character I created here and her pointed hat. I've been working a lot on developing my doll making skills and ideas, and so I've become more interested in character design and clothing details. This is also a kind of doll or plush doll sort of character design. It wasn't really conscious. I think I just felt like drawing a cat-like creature and I wanted them to be holding something, and saw a photograph of a tooth and just decided to put that in their hands. It was all very spontaneous, which was really enjoyable as it meant the results were often kind of unexpected even for me. I like how these seem like they would have quite a mischievous backstory. Perhaps a good idea for a future doll too. This next sketch was fine, but I didn't love how it turned out. I wanted to mirror the last drawing a little and have a girl flying through the air, but instead of holding a tooth, it would be a cake. I had just finished sculpting some Halloween treats for my Sylvanian family cottage, and so I really wanted to draw one of the cakes I made. You can watch the sculpting process of those cakes and treats on my channel if you feel like it. Although I didn't love this drawing, I like how much this challenge forced me to accept when things didn't go the way I liked and to just move on to the next drawing. The shape of the pages and placement of each drawing often influenced my decisions as well. There was this sort of L-shaped space left here, and I liked the idea of having some sort of animal curving around this corner. I decided on a fox. I really enjoy inking fur. It always feels very fluid and freeing, so I tend to really over-exaggerate the fluffiness of animals. I do kind of wish I hadn't left certain parts of the fox off of the page and made the whole body visible, but I still like it despite that. I especially love the big fluffy paws and cunning expression. I added a few stars and sparkles in between the drawings to fill in the empty spaces a little, and I really love how it turns out. I really love moths, so it would be quite a miss not to feature at least one during the month. Apparently I just really like drawing fluff, because moths are also a lot of fun to draw because of this. I love how varied and beautiful each moth species is. We get a lot here in the forest, and I'm always amazed by how much they vary in shape and size. I don't think this was one particular species, more just a combination of moths I was already familiar with. And just like that, the first 7 days of Inktober are already done. Here is the full page spread. This first week was really a lot of fun. Week 2 starts off perhaps a little weirder, depending on your threshold for weird, I guess. I've noticed there are a lot of common motifs in illustration that I think is probably linked to folklore inspiration, and a little face surrounded by petals seems to be one of those. I don't know why they're brandishing a sword, but apparently that's just what came to my mind that day. I think when I posted this online I wrote, "She's a little weird and wants to fight you." The ink really bled around the facial features, but I actually really liked this effect. She looks even more unhinged and creepy. I decided to continue with the theme of human-type faces on non-human things with this moth lady, and I particularly enjoyed drawing her long flowing hair that curls up at the ends, and her fluffy chest fur. So I realised I haven't actually drawn a dragon since I was a young teenager, and that really must change. I have had an idea for a dragon illustration for quite a while now, but I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to try one out. I got the idea from watching the Wano arc in One Piece and the dragon Kaido, and really enjoyed the scale of the dragon in comparison to the town and how it dwarfed the houses and people. I really love how this one turned out. I love the scales and huge claws, and I feel like you can kind of tell it's glowing where I left more white visible. For the next day, I decided to add a little something to make the drawing complete. This little figure pushing a floating heart towards the dragon. I also added a bit of landscape to the image to give a sense of scale and environment. Another half-human, half-something else creation. For some reason I felt like drawing this sad girl, her lower half covered in feathers with little wings coming from her back. It's not easy being a bird girl. There's also something really fun about drawing feathers too. I think it's just the easy fluidity of it. It almost looks better if you're not being too precise. Another strange little creature to fill this corner. I have no idea what this is, but it's chubby, horned, and sparkling. Finally, I thought this last little space on the page would look extra wonderful with a long braid fastened with a ribbon. I have a bit of a thing for braids, call it my romantic sensibility, but I think there is something just special and significant about braids. They feel like talismans, or like they could cast spells or curse someone or something. I definitely wouldn't be surprised if one of my braids became sentient one day. And this is the second week of the challenge completed, days 8 to 14. This week was really fun and imaginative. This third week was when I started to feel a bit more struggle on some of the days. I think I was feeling really tired as the days were getting darker. I always find there's an adjustment period every autumn where I'm struggling to get used to the changes in light and temperature. I actually really disliked this first drawing. I struggled while penciling it as well, and it wasn't until like a week later I realised what I could have done to make it a bit better. But still, not every idea can be a good one or well executed, and so I continued on to the next. I decided to continue exploring anthropomorphic moths with this next little sketch. I felt like drawing a sad, kneeling girl with her moth friend hugging her from behind, with all four of their velveteen arms and hands. The design of the moth person kind of turned out looking a little more like a raccoon or a koala, but I especially liked the hands. I actually kind of enjoy how this image looks quite ambiguous. I told you it's her moth friend hugging her from behind. I also think this image can look quite sinister. It can almost look like she's entrapped, or that this moth person is kind of non-consensually kind of touching her. I kind of did realize upon looking at it that it's kind of ambiguous. But I think that's also the fun of art. I personally actually am fine with people interpreting my work differently. I think once your kind of art is out there in the world, every person's different experiences and cultural backgrounds is probably going to influence how they interpret art, and I think that's really fun and interesting. I finish up the sketch by filling in the wings with some dark and scribbled detail. This might be the happiest bird thing creature you've ever seen. I often draw things looking kind of sad, grumpy, or morose, so it was fun making something look silly and happy, and I don't really know what I was going for here, but it's like an owl chicken or something. The rear end definitely looks very chicken-like, and the happy little face looks like it brings good fortune to all who come across it. Next, I decided I felt like moving away from characters and wanted to draw something a little more simple in design. A leg with a brogue-style shoe on its foot, a lacy stock, and some thorns wrapped around the calf. I add in some extra leaf detail at the end to make it a little more decorative, and I kind of like how the thorns are a bit more hidden like this. I quite like celestial symbolism as an aesthetic, and like sneaking it into my designs on occasion. I've always liked the image of the sun with a face, and when the beams emitting from it are curved like tentacles. It was also the perfect size for this little bit of space in the corner. So I once drew a shaded in sun for some really silly, like, pseudo-psychology test someone made me do. I use the term test very loosely here. And the person who asked me to do this was really perturbed by the fact that I had shaded in the sun, and I tried to explain that it was just a stylistic choice influenced by looking at a lot of Victorian illustration and astronomical drawings, and they wouldn't believe me and kept insisting that it signified something along with the other objects they had asked me to draw. So now it's kind of annoying that I think about that every time I draw a sun. Just a strange little side story there for you. I really love this little sketch I created. Something about it just works really nicely, and I think I'd like to turn it into a larger illustration at some point. I love the expression on her face and the sweeping of her hair and the curve of the antlers. The funny thing about the challenge is how different my drawing feels day to day. Some days it flows really nicely, and other days I feel like I'm tripping over myself or walking into a wall and struggling to get the lines to flow nicely. Practice definitely helps to keep your skills consistent, but even then bad days still happen. I wanted to end this page with something nice and simple. I was starting to feel quite tired at this stage, so I decided on a simple hand stretched out, reaching for a little silhouetted fairy, with leaves and vines curving around them. Sometimes I don't allow myself these moments of more cliché drawing ideas. I like to try and push myself to draw things that are a little bit different, or perhaps have a new spin on a common idea. But sometimes it's fun just to draw something that's probably been drawn many, many times by many people. And this is the third full page spread, days 15 to 21. At this point, I was honestly feeling quite tired, so I started off the page feeling a little unsure. I'd actually been rereading Uzumaki by Junji Ito, and so I was in the mood for drawing undefined dark voids taking over an unsuspecting girl. I found this started to look better when I added more detail to the socks and dress pattern. The next day I was really struggling again and wasn't feeling very creative at all, so I decided to stick to what I felt most comfortable drawing, and that is animals. Even so, the position of this goat creature turned out a little strange. The funny thing is, when I posted this online, people seem to actually like it a lot more than some of the other drawings here that I personally think are much better. Not that that was a very accurate pool of people to make a judgment, but I still just find it interesting how it often goes like that. This next drawing I really love, and I'd like to make into a larger finished drawing. A girl looking off to the side pulls open her dress, and inside is darkness and moths. I also decided to draw her with her lower half submerged in a dark pool of unknown liquid. I really enjoyed this drawing as well. A little face peering out between leaves, also surrounded by moths. Apparently I'm just really into moths. Someone actually asked if I'd make this into a larger piece. It doesn't draw me in as much as some of the others I've created, but I also think this could make a really lovely print as a larger drawing, so I think I probably will. The next sketch is another little simple hand sketch, this time holding a bird. Speaking of cliché ideas, in some ways I often think about how ideas can't really be owned by anyone. They are all part of a collective unconscious, and we can only really put our own spin on ideas that already exist, and that's what makes them unique in the end. There are a few people that have seemingly thought up new ideas, but I think they are really rare. There was a sci-fi author who I can't remember the name of that I think actually invented the concept of a credit card before they ever existed. I often think about that there are these very few people that have the kind of mind that really can create things that don't exist yet. This next sketch was quite rough and quick for no particular reason other than that's how I was feeling that day. I felt like drawing two slightly eerie, ghostly looking girls on a horned horse, a flowing tail cascading down the side. Horse legs can be a little challenging, knowing which part bends where, so I did check out some reference to help with this one. I also added a star between them and a glistening eye on the back of the horse for a little extra weirdness. Finally, I finish up this page with another drawing I ended up really loving. A wistful looking sheep girl. It's funny how some drawings just work out so nicely, and it's often quite unexpected. I love how simple this one is, so few lines, to the point that I'm not actually sure I could do it justice in dip pen. I feel like I'd accidentally add too much detail. But I'm wondering actually if I could offset that by making the background really detailed and keeping her almost completely white with just simple flowing lines. I think that could look really lovely. I couldn't finish this drawing challenge without drawing Baba Yaga's house. I knew I wanted to draw this for this challenge. I've been wanting to do some Baba Yaga art for ages. If you don't know, she is a character in Slavic folklore, or sometimes one of three sisters, and she dwells in a cabin with chicken legs deep in the forest. She is also sometimes depicted as flying around with a pestle and mortar. Her appearance also varies wildly, as well as her character, disposition, and appearance. In a few of her stories I have read, she often houses a young girl as a servant. In exchange, she would either help her or eat her. She would often give the young girl impossible tasks and become enraged when the girl would actually be able to complete them. I really enjoy Russian fairy tales in particular. They just hit a bit different than other European fairy tales. Even though they often share many similarities, the Russian tales seem to just go that step further in terms of their darker elements. I decided to go more detail heavy for this one, spending time adding feathers around the bottom of the house, adding clouds around the roof, adding a pie in the window and other little details you might be able to see in the window and the door, and also adding wood detail to the walls as well. I especially like the chicken legs. I feel like I could really imagine this stomping through the forest, so I absolutely love how this one turned out. So this is the 29th day of Inktober, so there are less drawings to fill on this page, and I thought it would be really nice to have this house taking up most of the page. Now for the penultimate drawing. I just felt really in the mood for something a little softer, so I drew a girl sleeping completely surrounded by rabbits. And finally, we finish up this challenge with a drawing that is probably a bit too small to really make much sense once the detail is added, but I wanted to create a teapot with a cutaway, and inside would be a girl having a tea party with a kind of wolf man creature. It features a lovely tablecloth and table and teacups, and you can also see the night sky out of the curtained window. This challenge has been really enjoyable, and I think a big part of that is the fact that I've focused on making it about something I personally wanted to explore, rather than doing it just for the sake of doing a challenge. If you're interested in trying a drawing challenge like this one, I definitely recommend focusing beforehand on what you want to achieve and how to make the process fun as well. It's definitely made me realise that this is something I should be doing more often, although I think the commitment of drawing every single day is a bit too much for me long term. I think I would like to pick a week every now and then where I draw every day of that week. I think this has been especially helpful for producing creative ideas that I can make into finished pieces. I've also had a few people be interested in tattoo designs from seeing these, and the page layouts do kind of look like tattoo tickets, so I wonder if that's something I could create in the future too. The prints from my previous Inktober that I showed at the beginning of the video are available in my shop. If you would like a copy, I'll put the link down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy watching me draw and talk, I have a whole playlist of inking videos where I talk about my process and sometimes my life and thoughts. I also have art vlogs and art doll videos if you enjoy other mediums too. Take care.